man that I date, every man that I'm attracted to, every man that I seek and that I enter into a relationship with is a representation of the father that I either did not have in my life or who was in my life but left void. And so now I am desperately seeking from this man what my father did not give me. And of course, that leads us women to make really horrible choices in relationships, oftentimes that go well into middle age.
So how do we deal with this? First, we have to acknowledge it. We acknowledge that daddy-daughter dilemmas are real. If you don't deal with your daddy issues now, you're going to end up dating your daddy. How do we, okay, do we have a percentage of how many women have daddy-daughter issues?
Well, I think everybody has some level of issues from their parents. I'm a mom, and so I always like to say, I'm going to screw the kids up somewhat, so I like to keep it at much of a minimum as possible because you're not perfect, and so there's no perfect parenting. But it's not just the women who have issues, because some of us choose to deal with them, but it's those of us who have traumatic past experiences with our dads. Like I said, if he wasn't there, or if he was there, but he didn't take an active role. And so it leaves these voids that we then look to fill as we're growing older. And like you said, with anything, we need to acknowledge it, but not just acknowledge it. We need to either not enter into relationships until we're dealing with those issues internally, personally, or we need to deal with them in a way that our partner is going to be able to help us. Because the point of our relationship is to get to a place of healing, become better people, etc. We're attracted to the people that we're attracted to because they in some way, shape, or form can help us heal from whatever problems and issues we have. That's with men and women. So you have to have a willingness to deal with your problem after you've acknowledged it. A lot of us say, I have this issue, I have that issue, and so we know it, we acknowledge it, we face it, but then we don't work toward resolution. And working toward resolution actually takes work, and that's the problem with a lot of us. We're not willing to do the work.
Okay, so I have to say I totally agree with you, and you're making me wonder what kind of daddy issues I currently have and how that has transcended into some of my relationships and why I may be single now. So you've given me a lot to think about, Tayla, but I want to go back to Monday's conversation because we had a anonymous conversation with a dad, and he was dealing with the fact that he walked out on his daughters when one was 2 and the other one wasn't even born yet. And then he came back into their life 10 years later. The 12-year-old was built like a 16-year-old and didn't have any respect for him, wouldn't listen to him, wouldn't talk to him, and was out here searching for that love through these knuckleheads. He acknowledged that. And then the 8-year-old was going through puberty. What would you say to that father who is currently listening on how to begin this relationship that he has with his daughters?
Well, I would first say that he needs to acknowledge, if he hasn't already, with his daughters, the mistakes that he made. And apology goes a long way with adults, and it can go even longer with children because they still have a certain amount of humility that we as adults don't have anymore. And so if he sits down with his daughters and talks to them about what he did, possibly why he did it, if he thinks that they can handle those issues, and if he apologizes for leaving them and explains to them that he knows what his responsibilities as a father are. So that looks like going to your daughters and saying, I know I left you guys. I know that there are some issues because I left you guys. And I know that it was my responsibility to stay with you. And I am sorry for that. I hope you can forgive me.
We'll be right back.
So the apology is number one. And number two, he has to allow his girls to have a voice, to tell him how they're feeling because of this. No matter how much it may hurt him or anger him, he has to allow them that, and he has to allow them to do that in the emotions that they're most comfortable with right now. Even if that's disrespect, even if that's being rude, even if that's anger. That's the only way they're going to be able to process it, is if he allows them to go through it. So first he wants to ask for forgiveness. Second, he wants to allow them the space to speak their truth and let him know what it did to them. And then he just wants to be consistent as a good father and do everything that he can now to be the most present, the most active, the most loving dad. Because we can't undo the past, but we can make steps today for a better, brighter future.
Thank you, baby. Thank you.
And he is listening. And one of the most important things that he'll have to do is to forgive himself. He has to let go of any guilt.
I don't think that's a
shame
point that we actually
feeling.
discussed.
So that's something he'll have to work on internally. But that's a huge piece of the puzzle as far as reconciling his relationships with his girls.
Wow. Okay. I don't think that's a part that we covered on Monday, because he got a lot of great advice. Some of the things that you mentioned were some of the things that were said through our listeners and through anonymous messages on Facebook. But I don't think we hit that aspect of him actually forgiving himself. Yeah. I think that's a major component that we even left out.
Because this is the thing, right? I just read something just recently which kind of sums it up, and it says that the universe is reacting to the person you think you are. So if you're carrying guilt, if you're carrying shame, the universe is going to create situations in your relationships for you to continue to feel that way. If you feel like you're not worthy of their love, in particular in this situation, if dad feels like he hasn't earned the love of his girls yet, if dad feels like he's not a good enough father because of what he did, if dad feels like just carrying the shame and carrying the personal guilt that he has, the situation is going to represent that because he's manifesting that energy within the relationship. Now, once he sits down with himself alone, and I have conversations in my head all the time, right? So has an internal conversation with himself about what he's done and how it's affected his girls. And then he himself apologizes, right? Like I like to always say, I'm sorry when I make mistakes to myself. I love you when I make mistakes to myself. And I know that we'll do better moving forward. So if he takes steps like that and gets rid of that guilt, gets rid of that shame, he's going to clear the air for more open, loving dialogue with his daughters, that relationship with.
Okay, so how do this self-apology? Give us this self-apology, because the dad can, not only can the dad use this, but anybody everywhere all the time can use this to apologize to yourself, to forgive yourself for anything that you've done. Can we do this self-apology one more time?
Absolutely. So the self-apology looks and sounds like, I made a mistake. I'm sorry that I made that mistake. I'm making a commitment to work towards forgiving myself, and I love myself. So simply it sounds like, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I love you. And this is something you can repeat in your head all day, over and over and over and over and over, because it will train your brain, right? And you know that you're speaking to yourself, and you're speaking about these mistakes that you made. So I made a mistake, I'm sorry, I forgive you, and I love you. Because you're everyone in this conversation right now. You're the victim, you're the attacker, you're the child, you're the adult, you're all of these things, all of these people at any given time, because human beings are complex, of course. And so when you repeat those things to yourself, it creates an open space for you to move forward and for the universe to now create situations in your life that are sort of manifesting in a way that will allow you to move forward without the guilt, without the shame. So I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I forgive you. And I love you. As simple as that.
As simple as that. All right. So let's deal with this dynamic of the fact that many, if not every female out here that didn't have a daddy in her life 24 hours a day may be experiencing a daughter-daddy dilemma or daddy-daughter dilemma, and could be possibly dating her dad or searching to date her dad that wasn't there in her life.
Right. So, like I said, we all have different levels of issues. And in relation to the daddy-daughter dilemma, you sort of have two aspects of that, because you have women who completely did not have a father, and then you have women who did have a father, but the father was inactive in some way. Either way, it creates a void that stems from our childhood. And when we're children, we naturally internalize the problems going on in our home with our parents. So we feel like it's our fault. So you're always seeking to fix the situation outside of yourself, not realizing that it has nothing to do with you. So as we grow, we're still feeling like we somehow, some way are at fault, and we're looking to make things better on an external level. So when we meet people externally, outside of ourselves, we carry that baggage into the relationships. So deadbeat dads, like I said, create desperate daughters. And in my book, Strengthening Her Essence, I actually have a character analysis, and one of the characters is the desperado. So she's the woman who does anything for a man just to please him. She does anything for a man to feel worthy. She does anything for a man to feel complete, to feel loved, even when it calls for her going outside of her character, abandoning her morals, her values, etc., because she is just desperate for someone to validate her in the way that her dad did not. Then we have women whose fathers possibly were in the home, possibly were around, but were not active in the way that they should have been, did not pour into them in the way that a strong, loving male figure should pour into a young girl. And so she grows up and she's seeking that attention. So she may not be as desperate as the desperado, but her focus is still on pleasing the male, getting the attention from him, and that sometimes looks like promiscuity, or just behaviors that are unbecoming of a mature, adult, balanced woman. And so they're each repeating those cycles until they realize that it stems from the daddy-daughter issue, and then they work toward resolution of that.
Is there no. I get it. I get it. I got it. Is there a reverse to this? Is there, as far as men are concerned, are there not the Oedipus complex and the Electra complex, but on the side of the dad looking for a daughter that he knew he missed out on? Is there a flip side to this coin?
Well, of course there's a flip side. You know, as I said, parents screw their kids up a teeny bit or a lot based on our parenting. So sons also need their dads, and then the total opposite, sons need their mothers to teach them how to treat women, how to respect women from a woman's perspective. And I think today we see a lot of that opposite reaction where moms are not raising their sons with the level of responsibility that we should give to our sons. So a lot of the time we have boys who don't respect the women outside of their home because mom is not demanding that respect in the home. We have boys who are misogynistic and who are womanizers because they're angry at mom because maybe mom had one or two more boyfriends. We have men who are upset at every woman because they're still upset at mom because mom either wasn't there or they feel like mom forced dad out, or any myriad of issues. So of course it's on the other side. I, of course, primarily deal with women in my business, and so I focus on women because I'm always speaking to myself first. And I know that there are women out there just like me who need to hear this, who need to learn this, and who need to work on this.
What? And I'm one of them. I'll tell you now. I got daddy-daughter issues. Daddy, I'm sorry. I'm being honest right now. A little transparency. How do we deal with this, Tayla? Like, how do we acknowledge it? I have daddy issues. Now what?
Well, I'm an avid supporter, believer, journal person, right? So I think you should write everything down, especially when it comes to being introspective, because you can have conversations with yourself like I do all the time. But if you write down how you feel, if you write down what you're thinking, it gives you an opportunity to go back and look at it. And it also goes from thought to thing. So it makes what you were thinking actually exist on this plane, right? It brings it into the physical realm. And that means that I can now deal with it in a way that I couldn't deal with it when it was just in my head. So you want to make sure that you write down how you feel about things, because sometimes emotions are fleeting, and now you can go back to it and reread it. And when you're reading things, it takes away some of the guilt and some of the shame because it's separate from you a little bit. You also want to review all of your past relationships, all of the failed relationships.
Hold on, pause. This is work. I don't want to do it.
Exactly. Most of us don't want to, right? It's not easy.
Tayla, that is so scary for me to go back in my like. I'm so embarrassed right now.
Scare you?
Because the truth hurts, Tayla.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Sometimes it does. But the truth is the truth, whether you face it or not, right? That's still what it is.
Ashe.
So the thing is still going to be there, even if you don't acknowledge it, even if you don't start to deal with it. The mistakes that you made, that I made, are in the past, right?
Yeah.
They're written in the timeline of history, so we can't undo that. But if I want to do better, if I want a healthy, happy relationship, I have to do something so that I'm not continually making the past relationship mistakes. That means I got to do something different.
Okay.
That means I have to take responsibility, accountability for myself and say, what did I do to contribute to the demise of that relationship? What is my relationship pathology, right? And what will that lineage look like when I pass it to my children? So if you don't want to correct it for yourself, then you should want to correct it for your children, because we don't want them to make the same mistakes that we're making. So we have a responsibility and an obligation to do better for ourselves, so that it impacts them in a better way also.
Absolutely. Okay, fine. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to reevaluate our relationships. And I have a anonymous over here that said, I didn't know she could know me so well. So we might have to go through these steps again. But let's finish out these steps. We're going to have to take a look at inventory as far as our past relationships are concerned.
Right. So we want to acknowledge it, of course. We want to make it separate from us, so we're not attached to that gear and that guilt and that fear, like you said. We want to write down how we feel, and then we want to evaluate our pathology, right, our past patterns, and ask ourselves, why did this happen, and how did I contribute to it? So if the relationship ended poorly, or just ended and you're not sure why, you need to take some time to evaluate that. Why did this end? And it could have ended because the person you were with was just a low down, dirty, sleazy dog and was sleeping with everybody in the neighborhood, for instance, right? So then the question is, why did I choose him? And then that's when it brings it back to us, because we always want to keep the focus on us. You want to keep the focus on you. What did you do? What can you do differently? How did this happen because of you? And always bring it back. So why did my past relationships fail? And then I figure that out. And then why am I choosing these type of men? Let me give you a quick example. I have daddy-daughter issues, right? I'd like to say I had daddy-daughter issues because I've worked continuously and really hard for a lot of years to resolve them. And I'm happy to say I have a great relationship. It took work, it took time, it took years. However, in my late teens, early 20s, I dated the same type of guy who I didn't realize until I got much older embodied all of the internal characteristics of my father. Now, physically, they were the opposite of him. And that was a conscious decision that I made to date men who didn't look like him, because I thought that would help me avoid the issues, avoid dealing with them, and just kind of, move forward. Yeah. However, subconsciously, I was attracting the energy that was just like him, that was forcing me to deal with it at some point. So you have to ask yourself, why am I attracting these people and these situations? What is it about me? How do I feel? What am I lacking and what am I looking for? And that will lead you to some really huge answers.
So what you are asking, I know, Tayla, what you're asking us to do is going to, how many people's relationships would end after taking clear inventory on past relationships, their pathologies, and where you are today, and why you're in the relationship you're in today? How many relationships would end once you have a clear understanding that your daddy issues are the reason why you're in your relationship right now?
A ton. We can't sugarcoat that, right? If I started asking myself, why am I doing this and why am I attached to this person, it's going to bring up a lot of things that will make me uncomfortable and that will make me question whether or not this person is for me. So a lot of relationships are going to end if the people in them really take stock and take inventory of what's going on and why they're with this person. Because so many of us are superficial. And so many of us are with the people who are helping us continue to run away from our problems. But that's not what you need. So when you start working on it and you start pulling back those layers and opening the closets and the skeletons start coming out, a lot of us are going to have to move on. And that's just it, honey. That's life, right? Some people are a lesson and some people are a lifetime.
Reason, season, lifetime. You're absolutely right about that.
Relationships will end. And that's another reason why people don't like to take stock and take inventory and go this route. Women especially, the desperate daughters even more so, because they have a fear of being alone because daddy wasn't there to begin with. But it's the only way to get to it. And, you know, we don't have a whole lot of time. So you may as well make the time that you do have beneficial and of quality and of happiness and love and joy and all those things. Who wants to live in a miserable situation? I don't.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to live in a miserable situation. You just don't know how to come out of the situation that you're currently in that's making you miserable. So first things first. So those that are currently listening, that are going through this daddy-daughter dilemma, you have daddy issues. He was there, he wasn't there enough. First step, right now, acknowledging the fact I have daddy issues. Repeat after me. I have daddy issues.
Speak to ourselves in a way that brings up those old wounds. We acknowledge it. And acknowledging it is difficult, but I don't think that's the most challenging part. The most challenging part is really working through it. So once we acknowledge it, once we write it down, and then once we commit to that alone time, that's going to force us to kind of revisit the past, which is okay. Revisiting the past is okay, but you can't live there, right? At some point, you got to pack your things and come back. But you want to revisit the past and the situations that occurred so you get an understanding of your patterns and your pathology. Then you want to ask yourself, why did this happen? And how did I contribute? And lastly, you want to decide what the different things are that you're going to do, that you would like to see. So it's a simple process when we talk about it, but we're talking about emotions and parenting and childhood. And so all of that is difficult because, like you said, it doesn't always feel good. And truth sometimes is painful. So we just want to make sure that we're taking our time with the steps, and you don't have to rush into it, but that you're being consistent and purposeful in your actions. So acknowledge it, write it down, take inventory, look at your relationship patterns and pathology, take responsibility and accountability, and then create a new you, a new future based on what it is that you want. And you want to write that down as well so that you can have sort of a guideline or a reminder for where you need to go and what you're looking to create in the future.
Absolutely. Okay, so we do have a call on the line. If you guys have any questions as far as daddy-daughter dilemmas, daddy issues, desperate, what is it, deadbeat dads?
For daughters?
Yes. Please give us a call, 617-282-0062. Again, that number is 617-282-0062. You can remain anonymous, TaylaAndre. Please inbox me on the contact that has me and Naz. There's another one with me holding a paper. Contact me on the one with me and Naz. I'll get your question asked anonymously. Your name will not be, your name won't be said. 617-282-0062. Good Rising, call you live.
Yes, good morning. Hello?
Yes, Good Rising.
It's good rising. I am considered to be in that category.
We can hear you. Shut your radio off for me. Okay, we're here.
through no fault of mine. So, I'm going through that situation right
Can I
now.
go in the other room?
He's here.
Okay.
Okay.
Through no fault of your own, you're going through that situation right now. Continue.
Yes, and I'm wondering how it's a difficult situation to get through to my daughter. So I'm trying to figure out if she has any ideas of how to go about that.
Okay, so to reiterate, he's saying that he's currently going through the same situation with his daughters through no fault of his own. How does he, figure out whether these issues exist within his child? I don't know. Is she an adult child or is she like a little teenager? She's a grown woman. So how do daddies speak to their adult daughters about this issue? Now, remember, adults, we think we have all the answers, Sway. We know everything. You don't have to, I don't need you to come talk to me about nothing. Like, how do you speak to an adult daughter that may be going through these issues?
Well, I would first like to know why he says it's through no fault of his own. Because I take issue, like I said, whenever we put the blame on external forces totally. So I would challenge him to look at how he may have contributed to the issue in any way, shape, or form. Then, of course, I would say that he needs to engage his child. He needs to talk to them about what's going on and why he's feeling this way. And as a parent, it's difficult, but he needs to come to them humbly because he needs his child to teach him something. He needs his child to give them the answer so that they both can move forward. So he needs to engage them honestly.
You guys have any questions? TAYLA
We're constantly arguing why. Did I do something to you? Do you have some resentment toward me? Talk to me. You have to just engage a person on their level in a way that makes it comfortable for them to open up. And then he can decide what steps need to be taken from there.
That was beautiful. Carla, do you have any other questions? Does that answer the question for you? Sir, does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. 617-282-0062. Sometimes external factors do matter, Phyla. It does matter when I have a baby mama that won't let me see my daughter. It does matter when me and this broad don't get along. I can't stand her. And I'd rather stay away instead of dealing with the drama all the time.
It matters. Of course it matters. Everything matters. But if you're dealing with a situation and you want to resolve that, you can't deal with it from a position that's 6 feet away from the problem. So we're all adults. We know that our actions dictate what happens in our lives in some way, shape, or form. So even if the only responsibility you need to take is choosing this person, right? I made the wrong choice. I had a child with the wrong person. We didn't work together, get to know each other, etc. But you have contributed to the problem in some way. There's no problem that exists in your life that you're not part of. And if that's what we want to tell ourselves or believe, we're never going to get to solution-based action. So I'm not saying he needs to take the blame. I'm not saying that baby mother didn't contribute. I'm not saying that there weren't forces possibly outside of his control. But let's first deal with how we got ourselves into this. And then let's look outside of ourselves to see what else is going on.
Wow. So you just gonna put me on the spot, huh? You just gonna make me deal with my iniquities, huh? This is really difficult. Today, I know it's supposed to be light and fluffy. It's supposed to be hump day, but today we're doing some soul searching.
Hump day better.
So I have a anonymous over here that made a comment. It's not a question, but it is a comment, and I want to make sure. And I totally agree with this comment. Her and Vanzant must have common energy. The thing is a thing. We must do the work. All of us. Being that honest and transparent can be very painful, but in the long run, it can be the enema of our life of healing. So do you think that dealing with daddy-daughter issues can lead to some form of healing?
Of course, of course. like I said, there's no problem that exists in our lives that we have not created, which then means that we also have the ability to create solutions to resolve those problems. And as I spoke of my own personal situation where I was avoiding my daddy-daughter dilemma and not dealing with my daddy issues. And once I began to deal with them, right, once I began to work toward resolution, I also attracted an entirely different type of person in my life. So I went from having a very negative relationship pathology to having one that is almost non-existent in so many people's lives, one that I didn't even know existed. So I have a relationship for almost 13 years now that I never would have had access to had I not dealt with my own issues and resolved my daddy-daughter dilemma. It absolutely leads to healing. It's the only way to healing.
So we're doing some healing today, y'all. We are doing some healing today. 617-282-0062. I'm going to take this call, and then we're going to take some of these comments and questions on Facebook. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Good rising. Second question. I would like to know about the guys that have mommy issues.
Father, you think we can cover that?
Relating to it. So we can definitely touch on it. Does the caller have a specific question?
Do you have a specific question, Mommy?
You know, there's guys out there. Some women don't have daddy issues, but there's a lot of guys out here that have mommy issues. How about that?
That's absolutely true. Everyone has a certain level of issues, but we don't want to avoid what we're talking about because this is a very specific, very important conversation as well. We're talking about women and their daddy issues right now. That's not to negate that men need help with resolution. That's not to negate that men have mommy issues. And we touched on that a little earlier in the conversation. So you're absolutely validated in your desire to explore that and express that and talk about that. It's very real, but we're just focusing on the daughters and the daddies right now. Eventually, we'll get to the sons and the moms because it all needs to be resolved. And if any males are listening with mommy issues, they can relate what we're talking about to their situation as well. The information can still be used, whether you're a daughter with daddy issues or son with mommy issues. So yes, sons have mommy issues. We're not saying that they don't. We're just talking about the daddies and the daughters right now.
Okay. All right. She said, listen, we're going to talk about these daddy issues that y'all have first.
Right? And it's natural. It's human nature. Whenever the finger is being pointed at us, we want to deflect and say, well, what about them? What about that? That's fine. That's valid. But we're here right now. This is what we're dealing with.
Well, you know, I don't want to take responsibility for my inactions or actions. And yeah, I want to point the finger at somebody else so they can take the blame because I don't want to take responsibility. And
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So if you are a woman who says or who thinks or who feels or who absolutely does not have daddy issues, but you continue to choose men with mommy issues, then you might want to reevaluate that.
That hurt, Tayla. That hurt. Okay, you cut me kind of deep with that one.
It's always you, baby. It's always me, right? Oh.
I got you. We do have another caller, 617-282-0062. Good rising, caller, you're live.
Hi, good morning. I was calling. I'm not sure if I have daddy issues, but a lot of what's being said kind of hits on me. Now, my dad passed away when I was young, but he instilled a lot of stuff, positive energy in me. But I still kind of get crazy relationships.
Okay. So Tayla, how would you deal with daddy issues if your dad's no longer living and you can't have that discussion? You can't talk it out with the person in which you should be talking to.
Then you need to have those internal conversations. So the steps are still the same as in talking to yourself and dealing with it. I like to a lot of times advise my clients and the women that I work with, if you want to get a message to someone but they're no longer accessible, then you can write them a letter, right? Purge everything, get all those feelings out. You can even send it to them. And as far as this caller in particular, I know she said she had a good relationship with her dad. He instilled a lot of positive things, but it sounded like he died prematurely or maybe at an earlier point in her life.
Mm-hmm.
So she may not have issues directly relating to dad's behavior, but she could potentially still have daddy issues because she's longing for that attention and that love that she didn't get from daddy. So when I say that we all have daddy issues, it's not specifically one way or another. It's just relating us back to our past and our patterns because it's all related.
Okay. So we have Anonymous here. Again, you can hit me up, TaylaAndre. Your name will not be mentioned on air. This is 100% anonymous. As an adult, I found out my father raped my mother and I was conceived. As a child, I didn't understand why my mother kept me away from him. So I grew up without a father. But as an adult, I understand why she did it. How do I fix my daddy issues from this standpoint?
That's pretty heavy, right? Because there are issues there of sexual abuse and guilt and fear and shame. So now, as a parent, if someone has harmed you and if you think that they can potentially harm your child, you keep them away from your child. So that's absolutely understandable. However, now that she's an adult, she can reach out to her father if she so chooses. I don't know what the specifics of the situation are, but if she doesn't have physical access to him, she can write a letter. If her mom is still alive and well and cognitive, she should engage her mom and have conversations with her mother about the situation, if mom is willing to talk about it, and about the feelings that she's having. So it's the same course of action as far as the daddy-daughter dilemma. We acknowledge our situations, right? We write them down so that we can see them. We work through the resolution in the same steps. So she wouldn't ask herself why she's at fault for that situation, but she wants to be clear that if she's making negative relationship choices, that she relates it back to that and understands why. And then again, she needs to go back to the source. She needs to get to the root of the overall problem and engage her mom about how this situation came about. I'm a big advocate of parents talking to their children about what has actually happened in their lives, about some of the things that aren't so nice to talk about, because it helps our children learn through our experiences. So how was mom in a situation like that, and how did it affect her? Because as we've heard, it's affected mom's parenting as well. So they all need to have some really tough conversations. And if she has access to dad and she's an adult now, I would advise her to reach out in a way, of course, that keeps her safe, whether over the phone or through letter or email or something along those sorts. But she sounds like she needs more information, and she can only get that from the people who were directly involved in the situation.
Good answer. Good answer. Let me find out, Tayla.
She needs to know that that has nothing to do with her. So hopefully she's not harboring any guilt related to the way that she was conceived.
Just to follow up, it hurt my mom, then it hurts my mom more than it hurts me when we talk about it. So do you think that maybe these daddy-daughter issues is something that the mom can address as well?
Of course. And it's probably something that mom has passed down to daughter. So there's an environment of distrust, right? When something like sexual abuse or rape happens to you, you distrust people, you distrust that person, potentially you distrust people like the person who harmed you. And so if she's saying it's still hurting mom and still causing pain, it would indicate to me that mom has not worked through her own resolution, which means that daughter has grown up in this environment, in this culture of distrust of other people. And so I'm sure they both have some issues to work through and to deal with. I'm a sexual abuse survivor myself, so I understand the patterns that are created when you don't deal with that sexual trauma. So mom needs to get some resolution for her own personal healing, and daughter and mom need to engage so that mom does not continue to pass her traumatic experiences down to daughter, because we don't want daughter to repeat these situations or find herself attracting that same type of energy in relationships.
Wow, that's a powerful, powerful thing. And Tayla, I would have never imagined that you were a victim of sexual assault. How do you work through that and begin to be able to trust again? Just overall, not even like daddy daughter issues, just issues period of trusting men.
Well, it comes back to self-forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, right? Convincing yourself that you're not at fault, and that you did not deserve this. So that doesn't mean that we don't backtrack and maybe say, what can I do differently? But it means that we say, this was not my fault. I did not deserve this. I did not ask for this. And it's funny because I often tell my husband, I was actually sexually abused as a child from the age of 11 to 13. So I had to work through a lot of issues growing up. And I tell my husband all the time, like, I could be a whole lot worse because I had a ton of issues. But I was committed to working through them because I wanted to create a relationship that was different from what I had seen and what I had experienced. So again, it's the same course of action of acknowledgement and resolution, and just dealing with our emotions and allowing ourselves to feel them and work through them, and knowing that it's not your fault, and learning to forgive yourself. And understanding that people don't usually hurt us intentionally just to hurt us, but generally they're working through their own problems and their own issues.
Absolutely. Hurt people hurt people.
And not as an excuse, but just as a way for us to move forward.
Mm-hmm. We have a caller on the line. Good rising, caller. You're live.
Good rising, Tayla.
Good rising.
I'm sorry, I just started listening, so I don't know if this question was asked already, but just wanted you to comment on women that are in good relationships or have good men or anything like that, and they end up not knowing how to be treated. Like, they'll be treated nicely, but they go off, maybe cheat on them or not accept it. Like, for example, like me being in my past relationship, I would let my girlfriend go out with her friends and hang out for the night, and she would be upset that I didn't put up an argument or some sort of resistance towards that, because she felt that I was just letting her go out. You know what I mean? It seems like sometimes when you treat a woman with respect or how they should be treated, it seems like it backfires on you sometimes. Why do some women not do not do well with good men sometimes?
I think that is an awesome question. And if I may piggyback, why is it that good girls like bad guys? I never equated the good girl, bad guy to daddy-daughter issues. Because if your daddy treated you with love and respect, you're going to want a man who's going to treat you with love and respect, not the man who slaps you around and tells you, what do you mean you going out to the club? You can't go nowhere.
Right. Well, I think that was an awesome question as well. And I first want to say to the caller that I hope going forward he would not use that woman and that situation as the scale for how he rates every other woman. So there are women who are open to good men and want good men and are willing to be good women in the relationship. But two reasons. So if you're just dating and having fun, society sort of has conditioned us to the idea that the bad boy is more fun. So when you're young, you want a little excitement, adventure, etc. So when we're talking about moving into serious relationships, when you want a healthy relationship, you do want the good man. You do want the good guy who's going to treat you well, especially if that's what you come from. But when that's not what you come from, when you come from a legacy of men who do not treat women well, when you come from a past of not being treated well and not feeling like you're worthy of that, because that's what we learn, right? Earlier we said that children internalize what's going on at home and somehow think that it's their fault. So if you don't see healthy relationships, you take on the idea that relationships have to be rocky in order for them to be loving, right? If mom was and if mom and dad were violent or were abusive physically, mentally to each other, we think that that is what love is. Also, some of us have a real addiction to negativity and a real addiction to pain. So we only find pleasure when it comes in the form of pain. We need to go through the emotions that are painful and that hurt to get back to a place of enjoying the situations that we have. And it's such an addiction that if nothing painful is going on, we
You
will then
think
create
something's wrong.
situations to cause drama, to cause pain.
Yes.
So the
Tayla, if you don't, I think you just dissected all my relationships.
We've all been there. We have all been there.
No judgment, baby. No judgment. But I think you really did dissect my previous relationships about causing strife and causing problems. And if there's not something wrong, there's something wrong. Like, hold on, everything's good? We're Gucci right now? Nah, something gotta be wrong.
Yeah, sometimes we feel like it's too good to be true, right? If things are too good, it's going to end, or eventually something's going to happen. So a lot of the times it's our own fear that it's not going to work out. So we'll cause drama, cause situations to see if it's going to last, or just invoke drama and pain because that's what's familiar to us. And familiarity feels good. The situation may not feel good, but the familiarity of the situation, of the drama, of the pain,
I'm
of the
so
argument
guilty.
feels good to us because it's what we know. And it lets us know that everything is as it should be because this is what I come from.
Okay, baby, tell me how to fix this. I know we ran all the way out of time. We're at the top of the hour. Tell me how to fix it.
Well, you have to unlearn what you've learned about your relationships. You have to acknowledge that the women, men in your family did not do it right, and you have to commit to doing it differently. And then we take those same steps, but you have to want to change. You have to want to do things differently because, again, when we're addicted to things, even though they cause us pain, it feels good. So that drama, that excitement, that reality TV every Monday night sitting in front of the television feeds those needs. And so you have to starve that need for drama and starve that need for pain. But that process is very difficult because you're going to have an influx of all these emotions going on at the time. But if you really want to get through it, you have to go through it. You have to grow through it. You have to allow yourself to feel what it is you're feeling, acknowledge it, deal with the why, and then work on the how can I be better and take baby steps. Every day, do something to create your new life, right? Every day, decide you're going to do something differently than you did yesterday. It'll take a long time, but eventually you'll get there if you keep at it and you work at it. And the same steps of acknowledgement, of working through it, of taking accountability, and of committing to something new is how you do that.
Okay, can you repeat the forgiveness thing? How do I forgive myself?
Yes. Now, that's big, right? Because we need to forgive ourselves for all the things that we've done wrong, for all the things that have been done wrong to us, everything that we've internalized. So it's a very simple process, and you want to say this to yourself out loud and internally. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Hold on. We're going to do this one together, okay? You say, I repeat. Okay, go ahead.
So we're going to say, I've made mistakes in the past.
I've made mistakes in the past.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Forgive you.
I forgive you.
And I love you.
And I love you, baby. I love you.
Say mine in the mirror, right? I look at myself often. I've made mistakes in the past.
I've made mistakes in the past. I'm sorry. I forgive you. And I love you.
You can repeat this over and over again, no matter where you are, no matter what's going on.
Yes.
It works. It actually works.
Amen. Hallelujah. Ashe, ashe. So we're currently on YouTube right now. We are recording, and I am wearing my Get Out the Box TV t-shirt with the little boy inside the box. So for those that are currently listening, somebody asked me, is that Idiot Box? And I'm like, no, it's Get Out the Box TV.
Yes. Get Out the Box TV. www.getouttheboxtv.com.
And don't forget the new jewelry line that I absolutely love. Just bought an amethyst necklace. You could buy chakra necklaces and earrings and Ankh rings and Ankh earrings. And you guys have the Nefertiti necklace with the earrings that are currently sold out. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure, we can, which sold out in a matter of hours, I think. Once it was posted on the site and on the page, it sold out in a matter of hours. So the idea, Get Out the Box TV, is the brainchild of my husband, Jason Antwine. And a few years ago, he decided that he wanted to sort of embody what he felt and what he thought. And so it's conscious apparel, right, that is representative of who you are internally. So we both believe that you should become who you are, outside and inside. If you want to be perceived a certain way, if you want to send a certain message, you should dress the part, you should speak the part, you should look the part. So you want to wear fashions and jewelry that are in alignment with your thought processes and who you are and who you're becoming.
Absolutely. One more time, how can we contact you, Tayla?
So you guys can, of course, follow me on social media, all of my social media platforms. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Periscope, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, and it is Tayla Antwine, Tayla, Fila, Antwine, Antwine, and she is Tayla. Of course, you can reach me on my website at www.taylaantwine.com, and we engage, we chat, we talk. I give tidbits on my Instagram, on my Periscope especially. We do live video chats. We talk about all the things that need to be discussed, and you don't even have to pay me for it.
She's worth the money, though. And for those who don't know, it's Fila. It's Fila. It's Fila.
Exactly. It's spelled just like Fila, but the I is long. And it was my grandmama's name before it was the company's name. So we originated this.
Original over here, baby. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you so much. Exactly. And I can't wait. Let's talk about that Nefertiti necklace and our earring set.
Yes, and I have I'm going to send you a new t-shirt also because, right, we inspire women to live with purpose, love with passion, and lead with power. And so I'm going to send you one of my Born to Live, Love, and Lead t-shirts from the Strengthening Her Essence collection that's coming out this spring.
Thank you, baby. Okay, because I love my listeners, can I have one for me and one for a listener?
Sure, absolutely. We'll email, inbox what sizes you need, and we'll get them to you. I'll send a few.
Thank you so much. Love and appreciate you. Big City 101.3 FM. Woke up. You ain't wake up. Y'all woke right. Woke up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have an awesome day today. Tayla Antwine. I'll go ahead and post all her information on social media so you can follow her. Get Out the Box TV. Love, live, learn. Mwah.
Your presentation. Listen, make sure you wake up with Tayla Andre Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. on Big City 101.3 FM. Wake up with the Radio Rebel. Politics, news, conspiracies. Wake up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. This is the type of stuff I'm into, all right? Make sure you tune in. This is the Champion Dial.
Oh, good rising, my kings and queens. How are you feeling? I'm feeling amazing. I feel like this conversation was absolutely fantastic. Let me go ahead and take this real quick. Big City. Hello, Big City. Hello. Oh, wow. I'm loving life. I'm so loving life. I'm loving everything right now. And now that I know that I have issues, now that I know I have problems, I'm ready to deal with them. I'm going to go take stock of my past relationships, see what I'm doing right, see what I'm doing wrong. Hold on one moment. Good rising. Hello? Hello? So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you missed any of today's show, please head over to mixcloud.com, TaylaAndre. I really do. I love you guys. I appreciate you for spending this time with me, and I hope you guys have an awesome day today.